Let's say good morning going out to Marsha Walker. Good
Hello.
morning.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Not bad at all. How
I
you
heard
doing?
that there were police by the sinkhole. I know that this is your area of expertise.
Well,
Talk
I
to me
know the
about it.
sinkhole was repaired, then the other side had a sinkhole, and then it was repaired, and then it started again. So I don't know. I really don't know. We need to do things properly the first time when we're doing things. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
We have to
Yeah.
do it properly, not a temp patch, because it's taxpayers' dollars involved in a temp patch, but we need to do it properly. All
All
yours.
right.
Have a good
Well, I
day.
see Ryad is already here. Do we have Brent and Ryan? Are they there? Or am I just
Um,
here with Ryad alone?
you're there with Riyadh.
Okay. Ryad, thank you for being on time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you. And then, whenever Ryan and Brent join in, we will have them included in the conversation. So, just to let you know, if you didn't see the flyer, we are going to be joined by the head national coach of Trinidad and Tobago for squash, because I'm not sure, I don't know when you're coaching how much you take on news around and stuff, but there was an announcement that T20 cricket would be included in LA 2028. So to squash and flag football. I mean, Brent will have to tell me about flag football. But
Okay.
so that's why, of course, we would have asked Ryan to join as well. Let me just make sure and check my phone. Sometimes they may be having difficulties or any, just making sure that nobody's sending me a message saying, they can't get in. Hold on. I have messages. All right. Yeah, so we wanted to talk a little bit about that. But I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a little bit. I don't think you're somebody that shies away from speaking the truth. We would have seen a lot Olympics is here. So of course, during certain times, T20, like the World Cups and all these kinds of things, all of a sudden everybody knows about sport. Everybody has something to say about sport, and they're all experts about sport. um, so yes, I see you find it funny. um, we would have seen yesterday's front page newspaper. There was a picture of Keyshawn Walcott receiving a check, and it was for about $250,000, which worked, and that's an annual check, right?
Right.
And it's part of the elite funding program. So I don't know if I have no idea how that program works. Would you have been part of that program? How is it just for athletics, or is it? That's where
Um,
Brent and Ryan and they would could have jumped in as well.
there was a few years ago when we played in the Champions League in India. The government then were given to the national cricketers uh, a monthly allowance. We benefited from that, but they also stopped that. I think that was only for a year or two, if so long. They stopped that for the national cricketers. I don't know if it was because we had played in India in the Champions League and we did well. It was like some sort of compensation afterwards, but it was really handy for us as cricketers because back then we really wasn't earning that much, and for guys who were just depending on playing for Trinidad and Tobago, that stipend was really handy for us. But they had stopped it. I can't remember if it was a year after or 2 years after they discontinued that. And I know Kishon and some athletics, they some athletes who in the athletic field they still get, but cricket no.
Well, there was so the comments I found the comments to be unnecessary. A lot of persons were saying, we can't get our book grant, we can't get this grant, we can't get that grant, but you hand and Keisha on a check. And it's really, really unfortunate because right under that article, you would see Jareem Richards saying that we don't have a culture of sport. One, we expect Trinidad to do as well on the international seen as large countries like USA, even Jamaica. We consider them, the Caribbean. But in terms of the population, there are more people, right? So you're asking this tiny island to really come out and be consistently mighty. And he's saying that here's what we don't have a culture of sport. So right after he says that, you're seeing people commenting, being absolutely upset that athletes are receiving this elite funding. And I'm thinking, how do you expect them to perform day in, day out? Do you expect them to go and get a job, and then have a full time job and then go and train? So right there and then, right on social media, without leaving my home, I could see that we don't have a culture of sport. We're just inside our supporters. So forget the ministry, forget all the other things. Just us as citizens, do we really put what we need to put into our athletes? We would have seen in the news, the Botswana government asking citizens to contribute. And this is after the fact. They want to celebrate their hero after winning, what would have been like, it's kind of like the biggest gold medal that you could win in the Olympics. And you're still seeing citizens going, well, why would we contribute? They're upset. Kind of feels like a trendy thing. Could you imagine Kishon coming home with a goal and then Rowley saying, well, you all have to help to celebrate, bring some money in to the pool. So there seems to be,
I think
yeah,
the a lot of people in Trinidad, they expect the athletes to do well. They don't care how they do, what they go through to achieve what they achieve. But when they win, they have all the good things to say. If they don't do too well, all the negativity comes in, and negativity sells. It don't matter what it is, negativity sells. And as athletes, you go through so much things. As I could talk for cricket and some footballers. Most of them don't have jobs. They depend on getting to the national team, and then to go outside to play to earn a living. There's a couple of guys in the national setup now who's very educated, can't find a job because they're overqualified. They're not going to get paid for how overqualified they are, and they have to depend on getting a national contract and to play for the national team to earn a living. And if they don't get a national contract, then what do they do? They have to go and do a normal job. And then when they go and do a normal job, they're not getting time off to come to practice to represent Trinidad and Tobago. And it's so many times that you see these comments on social media, and you wonder if it is they really, really, really care about the national athletes. And we as athletes, we do get a lot better treatment when we go outside and play than when we're in the Caribbean. Sometimes when we even home, because sometimes we travel to Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and we get so much better treatment than when we're in Trinidad. I had a time that I come to Trinidad, the lines were so long in immigration, and a woman who made me out, she's like, what you doing stand up in the line? You should be getting. I said, no, I'm in Trinidad. We don't get that preference in Trinidad. And she was, so amazed. But if I was in Guyana or Jamaica, like even for CPL, after CPL, I represented Guyana for 3 years. I was in a line. An immigration officer in Guyana came out, took me out the line, took my passport, and I didn't have to stand up. And that was so amazing. I'm not a Guyanese, but they respect what I did for Guyana in CPL. But we don't get that kind of treatment in Trinidad. You know.
yeah.
Sometimes we even go
And
try to
funny
go
enough,
through the
you speak
VIP
about,
line, and they will put us back.
yeah. Well, but you shouldn't have to try, I'm going to give a story because you speak about that, and I remember I was waitressing in England. This is like maybe 20 years ago, Brent. And somebody was like, do you know Brian Lara? Because you're from Trinidad, and I literally got £100 tip because I was Trinidadian and I knew Brian Lara, and I remember going. So at one point, I think it was Dwight. Brent would have to tell us, but we had quite a few Trinis on Sunderland's team. So I went to watch and to see the way that the fans like rushed our athletes.
Yeah,
We just don't have that admiration for athletes. But as you say, if we win, if we qualify, I remember when Bahrain, I tell that story all the time. I was there from the beginning when it was me, my brother, and about two other fans. I remember when we were losing one of the games, the 10 fans that were there got up and left. And I was like, dude, can we just wait till the game finishes before you get up and leave? But then come Bahrain, I can't get a ticket. I have to be there 4 o'clock in the morning to line up to try to see the same team that I was watching for the last 3 years. But now that we think we're going to qualify, all of a sudden the bandwagon comes. And, so this stemmed from Michel Ahi. Let me tell you where all of this stemmed from, because Michel Ahi was bold enough to say, well, thanks to the half of Trinidad and Tobago that supported us, but to the other half, so Brent, join in. And I mean, you could talk from the fans, from an athlete perspective, from, inside Ministry of Sport. I know a former Minister of Sport, Ken Ali, he spoke about a sport commission, the need to remove political interference. But then I may argue that we might need more political interference, because I saw for the first time, I have to say, I agreed with the present Minister of Sports, Shamva Kajo, where she said, these are independent bodies. So as much as I would like to come in there and say, do this, do that, do this, do that, I can't. And now that I'm a mom, I'm experiencing it from a totally different side, where Jessie was supposed to travel in July, right? So the NBFTT, so she plays basketball, and we were supposed to go to this qualifying tournament. Money was there, everything is there. We haven't started training, but the NBFTT says, to the coaches, keep your girls fit, keep your girls training and whatnot, right? Tournament come and gone, and Trinidad didn't represent. It's not in the media. There's no media release. There's nothing. There seems to be no accountability. But the Minister of Sport is saying that the money's in the account. So what's going on? And that happens over and over and over. And I've had to say to her, see, this sport you're playing is a waste of time. You training. I leave in my house 4 o'clock in the afternoon, coming back home 11 o'clock in the night every single day. Pick something else.
Yeah, well, first of all, good morning, Marsha and Ryad. It's good. Thanks for having me in the program. It's amazing that we tend to have these sorts of conversations, right or wrong now, when something goes wrong in sports, when something that the public at large feels that sport hasn't done well for them. But you have to quickly remind Trinbagonians, we are spoiled. I mean, what we've been able to achieve despite all of the challenges, and I'm sure Ryad would have mentioned, you, Marsha, mentioned, it's phenomenal. When you look at what we've done in cricket, what you look at what we've done in football, what we've done in track and field, in our history as a country, is truly remarkable. It shows that we have a lot of talent on the island. Of course, there are challenges, and sport comes with challenges. And I think I heard Ryad mention it. We don't have a sporting culture in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons why we do have some of the challenges, the real challenges that we're now talking about. Because yes, we've thrown a lot of money behind sports. So I mean, a lot of people come in here and talk about, well, we need this, but where has that money gone? What has it gone into? Especially now where sports is a lot more data-driven, more specific in terms of how we approach things. And because we've relaxed our laurels on the individual brilliance of people like Ryad and other people in sports, we tend to forget that these guys and boys and girls that have made it, really done it out of the pure talent they were born with and the hard work and perseverance that they put into the sport. Not the data-driven approach, not all that is now that you need to be successful in sports. And now it's coming to bite Trinidad, because we've relaxed on that laurels for such a long time that now it's demanding more of us to be able to medal, to be able to qualify for World Cups, to be able to be the best in the world. That if we don't start assessing, looking at things from a holistic point of view, we are going to continue to struggle.
Brent, that's actually a really, really good point, because Gary Griffith mentioned before, he was actually on the show before, and he spoke about his son, going to the US and being able to do testing to show that one calf is like whatever millisecond something, and just that adjustment can make a difference. We would have seen, persons talk about Keyshawn, apart from the fact that he had surgery within 12 months to have such a surgery and all of that, and still even be able to qualify. But most persons don't even realize that what he won gold with is actually a shorter distance than what he came seventh with. You look at Jareem and what he the point, whatever. You look at the 100 meter. I mean, everybody ran under 10 seconds. So as you're saying that now, and you're raising a really, really good point. What we need now to compete on a global scale is something very different. We're seeing that the speeds, the throws, well, I could speak to hockey. What the goalkeeping equipment that we would have used 30 years ago is totally different, because the speed, you can kill somebody with the kind of speed, the kind of power that someone is shooting at now. Compared, we use cricket pads back in the day because we played on grass, etc., etc., etc. The type of hockey sticks, everything is changing. Ryad will say it was not share talent, because I know that he prides himself on his discipline. I saw one of his Instagram posts. He talks about he trains just as hard now in his 40s as he did in his 20s. So he's a guy of work ethic. But I mean, we all hear the stories. We all hear the stories of what the sacrifices that you guys would have had to make. And it's not enough anymore. It's not enough. Keyshawn would have spoken about selling crab just to be able to afford money to get to to the stadium from Toko. He would have had to make a hard decision to stop A levels, because if he was going to compete, then he needed to be closer to the stadium. These are all sacrifices. Brent, I know some of your colleagues would have, they sold bottles at that time, to buy boots and stuff. So the grit that we had before is just not enough. We are into an age where science matters, as you say, data matter, and we can no longer power through our way. This mighty tiny island with a heart of gold, and that's what we won on before. And it seems, in fact, I put yesterday on social media that I think we used to be known for our warmth, and now I feel like we're getting uglier and uglier and uglier. When I see the comments, the villages that came together to produce these athletes. Red, you'll have to tell me more stories. I'm calling people that aren't here. But Bravo would have spoken about, the entire village in Santa Cruz coming together to buy his first set of pads and stuff. Are we still, so you have the demands increasing, but I feel like we have the support decreasing. People will say, well, it's the economic climate, it's the crime, it's the whatever. But the warmth of the island seems to be losing. Everybody's fighting up to survive themselves. Ryad spoke about the lack of opportunity for guys who are qualified but cannot get a job. And of course, I mean, well, I'll speak to the politics, but sports is an avenue. And I just can't understand. I saw again domestic violence this morning with a really horrific murder. And sport is an avenue out for so many guys. Guys who school is just not it. And I mean, and I'm coming from a place where, for my daughter, she is not interested in math and English. But so there are opportunities other than this beat your books. And beating your books these days not getting us a job. And we don't seem to be giving sport the respect that it deserves. Ryad, you're coming in and out. Ryad is not in the country. Brent, I have no idea where you guys are. I appreciate when you guys just, log in from wherever you are. Who's jumping in?
Yeah, as I said before, when we are doing well, we have the whole nation on our back. We have the whole world on our back. As soon as something goes wrong, even if it is that we think we did our best, and I mean, sport is like you win, you lose. I don't think players go out there intentionally to do bad. We have those moments where we don't do well, but the true supporters are the ones who stand behind you. Whether you do well or you don't do well. Social media now is all about negativity. As I keep saying, that's what sells. And as soon as you put something negative on social media, everyone comments, and they have a lot of things to say. When you do well, You know, a lot of people, only the true fans are the ones who really come out and support you. But I still think, the people that are in charge need to do a lot more for development as athletes. Um, there's
Speak
so many times
specifically.
when you
What would you like
travel,
to
you
see?
see a lot of nations who are going past us in every single thing.
I don't know if we had pause there. No, I'll pick up from where you left off, Marsha. To be more
Facilities.
specific,
I don't think we have the
let me,
facilities.
yeah, go ahead, Ryad.
Yes.
Sorry.
Red, you're breaking up.
Yeah, sorry
So
about
we
that.
lost you for a minute because I
Yeah,
was
sorry about
asking
that.
you
The
what
facilities is the
specifically
most
would you like
important
to
thing.
see? Was I'm losing you. What
Yeah.
specifically would you like to see from the authorities, from those in charge?
I don't know if Ryad heard the
Okay, so
question.
Brent, you will keep
Yeah.
speaking, and then we'll tell him to be quiet until you finish.
No, Ryad is making a valid point. I think he's certainly making a valid point in what he's saying. We, at the end of the day, when you look at the amount of money spent in sport, and let's be factual here, there's millions and millions of dollars spent here in Trinidad and Tobago in sport, but what is it spent in, and where is it spent? Is it focused in the areas that needs improvement, needs of course that sort of money being injected into it. We've all spoken about the scientific approach, the data-driven approach. How much money is spent in it? I can tell you, not a lot at all here in Trinidad. It's unfortunate because we do have people trained here to be able to do those sorts of things, but they're not paid. They're overlooked, and 9 times out of 10, they're undervalued in what they produce. And when you look at the types of money, it hurts me, especially and going into football. I've seen it in cricket as well. When you see all these government agencies having these fly-by-night football leagues all over the place and cricket competitions, don't get me wrong, that's fine. Yes, okay, community building, but it should be more driven and directed and have something with a bit more with longevity attached to it. Not a flash in the pan, something that would make an MP for an area look good. But I would like to see something that has a bit more substance in it. And I think that's been the problem in Trinidad over the last couple of years. We've really struggled to put money behind things that have substance in it when it comes to sport. It goes right back to what we said at the start of it, well, when I joined you guys, about the sporting culture. You're right. I mean, at the end of the day, these same people that are arguing about our results, when we had our entries in the national stadium, it was half empty. None of them came out. But it's very comfortable for them to stay behind wherever they are and argue about the sport. That's that very dollar that you spent to go into the stadium to watch a cricket game. There was a T10 tournament in Diego Martini Regional Complex, well run, well executed, and there's about 5 people there, 10 people there. But then these are the same people that want to shout down and be negative towards our athletes. That same dollar that is being spent in those sorts of situations help towards funding all these various programs, because at the end of the day, sports is an expensive thing. It's becoming more and more expensive because of the drive that sport is taken. It's a much more calculated approach, as we've said. So you need that sort of support. So again, when you drill down into the sorts of money that's been spent in Trinidad and Tobago in sport, it is up there. However, is it being spent in the right areas, in the right direction? I may question that.
So you're hearing two different things coming out from you. One, the money is needed, so supporters come so that we can make the sport sustainable. So we don't depend on government. But then we are also saying that there is government funding, but we're not seeing the value. It's not being spent in any sort of data-driven approach, that we just kind of dump money behind a problem. And of course, that's something that you hear in Parliament all the time, the education, national security. We have this idea that if we just say, what's the budget? What's the budget? What's the budget? What's the figure that you're spending? What's the figure that you're spending? But we don't seem to be getting the results. So we're not getting value for money. So there are two things that are happening. Where the persons that are giving the money on the top, maybe there's a disconnect, because Ryad, you were saying before, I see your face has cleared up, your screen has cleared up, so I'm assuming your internet's a little bit better now. But
Yes.
you were going towards, how do you want to see the leadership spend the money, and you were speaking to facilities and such. But Ryan has joined, and Ryan thought it was 8 p.m. Ryan, I'm sorry for the miscommunication. So I want to make
Okay.
sure that we all know that our head coach of squash is not a guy who is not punctual. um, right? But so we're gonna give Ryan just 2 seconds to join in the conversation. Ryan, we were speaking about the lack of support in terms of citizens.
Right.
Brent was just talking about you have good tournaments, they're run well, but the stands have 4 5 people in it, and that dollar that you would spend to go in, that entry fee, all of those things contribute to making sport financially viable. And
Yes.
then, of course, he also spoke about the science, the data, where sport is going. We can no longer depend on sheer grit, sheer talent, sheer determination. We have to have a more scientific approach. We have to take sport into the 21st century. Ryan, I think you've dropped out. um, all right, Ryad, the floor is yours. Internet. So, oh my, Ryad, tell me you're still here now.
I'm here. Hear me?
Okay, yes. So the
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Yeah. So
Brent took over
yeah.
because
So
we lost you.
yeah. We go back to the facilities. We are in 2024, and some of the facilities back home. We definitely need to be up to standard, and we wonder why our athletes are not performing. At the optimum best. I still think we are, given the facilities and stuff that we have. Players are probably outshining. What they should be doing, and we still come each and every day and try to do as best as we can. But as Brent said, the amount of money has been spent in our stadiums is not showing what we could really get for the money that has been spent. We've just been to England recently, and we saw the facilities there. They have so many changing rooms. You can host 6 teams at a time. The indoor facility is wow when you go there compared to ours. So many pitches on the field. The square run from one side of the boundary to the other. While we struggle to have two pitches prepared at a time back home. It's all about they come and they say they don't have the funding to have enough ground staff and so on. But they must find a way. We're in 2024. They must find a way. I think that things need to be done. Yes, we know the money is always going to be an issue, but the people that is putting the money in there need to find a way to have the proper structure for the money. And I'm not saying that in all the time that it's being spent in the right way, but they must have people accountable. If they say they're going to spend X amount of money, the people are accountable for spending X amount of money in the right way. And some of the athletes are getting frustrated. I've been getting calls. I'm away. I'm joining the team next month. I'm getting calls every single week from players. How frustrated they are, and it's kind of heartbreaking because I know what we went through when we were playing, and it seems like they're going through the same sort of things at this point.
Nothing seems to be changing. Do you think that we have what it takes to make it to LA 2020 for T20 for 2020?
I think we do.
Riyadh, you on this internet. Where are you in the world? Can we make it to 2020 for
Sorry, what do you
Olympics?
say? If it,
Can we make it to LA 2028 for
I
cricket?
I think we
I,
I think we could. I think we should. There's a lot of good players in Trinidad. I think our players are really committed, and being to the Olympics would be another push for them. I think we will do well. I don't know what is the qualifications, how you qualify. That's going to be another challenging thing. I don't know what sort of schedule they're going to use and what sort of format they're going to use. But I do think that we have a very good chance, and the players they themselves will want to to experience an Olympics. So I do think that we stand a good chance, but obviously we'll have to find out what's the format, how the qualification stages, what you have to do to qualify and that sort of thing.
Ryan,
Sorry.
squash, Olympics, talk to us. Have you heard anything other than the announcement that it's going to be there? What are the qualification stages, as Ryad brought up?
Yes, I'm in the airport, so sorry if you hear any announcements as the people in the airport making the announcements.
That's okay.
No, I've heard a lot. I think everybody has valid points, but I think for us to do well in sport, it has to be well managed. Everything has to be well managed, and people have to understand what also it takes to be an elite athlete. I think that's what a lot of people, at least from what I see from my perspective, is a lot of people don't understand what it means to be an elite athlete. Being an elite athlete means that your entire life revolves around your sport, and it means that you train like 6 days a week to 3 to 4 hours a day, which is what a lot of our people in Trinidad don't quite understand. And we have to understand what sacrifice it takes. It takes sacrifice from everyone. So yes, we talk about the money all the time, but the athletes themselves have to understand that they have to be fully committed to the sport that they're in, and they have to understand that their life has to revolve around the sport. The sport is not something that they just do socially, and not just something that they do that once or twice a week or 3 times a week. This has to become a complete lifestyle for you. You have to be fully ingrained in it, and the parents that have young ones coming into it, the parents have to understand the amount of sacrifice that they have to put in terms of time sacrificed as well as money. But a lot of it comes down to the time, because that is what's really going to take them to that next level.
Yeah, but can we afford to spend that kind of time on 4 or 5 hours a day, and then you have a job or
But
you have school?
that's the only way to be an Olympic athlete. It's there's no way around it. If you want to be an elite athlete, you have to put in the time. If you go on, the beauty of what we're living in right now is that we have everything available to us online. So you can go on YouTube and you could go look at a day in the life of a US Olympic athlete, or a day in the life of how Michael Phelps used to train, or a day in the life of Cristiano Ronaldo. Our young athletes now have this available to them. We didn't have it when I was young in 2001. There was no YouTube. Everything is available to you all now. We can contact coaches, elite coaches in all sports, and find out from them what is required of our athletes. How do we get to that next level? I mean, we have everything available to us in terms of knowledge, in terms of information. We might not have the money right away, and we understand the money is always a challenge, because the athletes have to be able to travel, they have to be able to pay for their healthcare, they have to be able to pay for their hotels, they have to be able to pay for their coaching, which is very expensive.
Yeah, well, because I'm hearing you talking about the amount of time that an Olympic athlete trains, and I started the conversation, so you would not have been here, but I explained that my daughter, 14-year-old daughter, we leave home at 4 o'clock, and we don't get back home until 11 o'clock in the night, and that
Yeah.
is 6 days a week. And
Yeah.
the only reason that we miss Sunday is because I say the Sunday is the Lord's day, and you're going to be in
One day
church.
off. You need 1 day off.
Well, she still goes and sweats. If we finish church and sweat is happening, and she gets lunch and all of that, because we say to her, only if it's, only if you're allowed to go and sweat on a Sunday. And then we just don't travel. We just don't go. We just don't hear anything because the funds weren't released, or the this or the that. So, I mean, I'm hearing you talk about the time. Brent, I'm sure, Ryad, I am sure you have guys that are putting that time in every day. That's in football and cricket, certainly that culture of spending hours and hours and hours on the field every single day, that's there.
I hear
Every
Ryan
single
say
day. And
three.
I mean, I can only speak to basketball because that's what my daughter plays, and she plays it in Enterprise. So that would be in what would I consider, they would call it a hot spot. In fact, right next to the court, there is a memorial site because a little boy died there and stuff like that. So for these youth, they give it their all, hoping that they can travel, that they can be spotted, that a scout will see them. And as I said, they're there till the lights come off, training every single day, hoping that one of them, just one, gets a scholarship. And that's not even making it anyway. They just want a scholarship. They just want an opportunity to be out of the country to do better. And they're giving it their all every single day to go nowhere, to literally go nowhere. Because, I started with saying, in July, the national team was supposed to travel, and you didn't even hear where's the national team. The national team just didn't go anywhere. And that would have been a qualifier. So all of us here would understand the cycles. So if you miss that qualifier, you're out for the next 3 years because you needed to take part in the first event to get anywhere else. So that's it for under 15 basketball for 3 years, till the next cycle comes around.
No, I think one of the things that moving forward, I think for sure we need an assessment, a national assessment as it relates to sports. Everything that we've said here this morning points towards that. It's unfortunate that we need something like what transpired in the Olympics for this to happen, but I do feel we need to have yearly assessments, and not just for track and field, for all sports across the board, and of course where and how we can get better. I always feel that you can tell where nations headed and how important, or where they see sports, the importance of sports. I think Ryad mentioned, I know Ryan was alluding to it, is that we do have a tendency here in Trinidad and Tobago where we like sports, but we don't really, I don't feel like we are true lovers of sports, because sport is not up there for us as it relates to the nation. Anyway, that's how I see it, because we don't put everything that you would see other nations put into sports. So I think an assessment is extremely important, so we can know how we are mapping our way forward. Is very, very important for Trinidad and Tobago, because as we have said, other countries have not only just caught up to us, but they have surpassed us now in the sporting realm. And I think we also have to have the ability to find out how do we move things forward. We talk about, of course, money as part of it. How do we get and engage more corporate sponsors and corporate people getting involved and putting more support into the sport? And how do we look after our athletes to make sure that they can become their optimum best? As Ryan rightfully said, it is a full-time job to be an elite athlete. And to do such, you need full-time support. You need all the support in the world to do that. It is very difficult. These guys on the show will tell you, it is very, very difficult. Coming from where we come from, the region that we come from as well, to become an international elite athlete, it is tremendously difficult. So we need all the support that we can, because as I said, the reason I brought up money, because I'm seeing money being spent in sport here in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's, as I said, it's not being directed, channeled, appropriated in the right way. And you can take all three departments and see it however you want to see it, because you can't argue when it does go to governing bodies that it is misappropriated in some instances. So all those things need to come in. Again, it comes down to how serious is Trinidad and Tobago about sports. As a former sportsman, I hope that this Olympics is a wake-up call to us in this country, that we have to realize that we have to give sports a lot more attention than we have given it in the past couple of years. We really do, because we are continuously sliding down a slippery slope.
You said someone has to do an assessment. Whose responsibility is it to do that annual assessment? Well, in this case, it's not annual, but we just kind of have to see where we are at.
I think everyone that's involved in this one. I think if, of course, it'd be perfect if it's driven by the Ministry of Sport. And the reason why I say Ministry of Sport, because they're the biggest contributor to governing bodies as it relates to funding and whatnot. And if it could be facilitated by them, but it needs the contribution of all. It doesn't matter, creed, race, political party, it doesn't matter. Bring the best people, best minds in sport from Trinidad and Tobago, and let them contribute towards it, because we do have some brilliant minds in sports that work for so many different countries, which is amazing, and help enhance different countries. Bring them back, get their opinions, get them to give, of course, their direction as to how we should take sports. That's when you know you're getting serious. And then have a plan, have something in place to make sure that we can implement some of the things that would have come up. And that's the way to move sports forward. But I can't remember in any time in the recent future, we've had those sorts of conversations. We have it now because obviously what transpired a couple of weeks ago in Paris. But after 2-3 weeks down the road, I'm very sure both Ryan and Ryad would bear me out with this. The sport conversation goes mute and things until something else happens again. if sports is as important as we believe it is in Trinidad and Tobago, because I'm looking at all the outcry and everybody so angry about our performances, then make it something that is spoken about all the time, every week, until we execute and get better. Don't wait until something happens, until people have another uproar again. And I think that is where we need to go.
I think a lot of things is we have in the uproar, right? But the public has no idea just how hard these athletes have it. So I've been very fortunate to have actually been able to talk to these athletes on a personal level, Jerry Richards, Curry Keyshawn Walker, and to hear the struggles that they have. I mean, these recognized elite athletes. Jerry is a double Commonwealth gold medalist in 200. Keyshawn Walker is a gold medalist in the Olympics, and to hear that the government barely gives them enough money for them to fund half of their expenses for the year. People have no idea how expensive it is for these athletes to live a full-time athletic career. They have no idea. They think, oh, they got 250,000. For somebody like Keyshawn, that can't even fund his annual expenses. If you think about how many events they have to go to every year, the Diamond League has like 15 events. If they go to 10 of those events and they have to travel to foreign countries and they have to pay for hotels and they have to pay for coaching, that 250,000 goes up in the air like nothing. So they think that the 250 is a lot. It's not. I just did our budget for our junior team next year. Our junior team has to go to Cayman Islands next year, and the budget for the team is $400,000. That's one trip for one junior team.
And how many people are on that team?
That team is 18 players and 3 officials.
Wow.
Right? That's one trip. So if you think about other athletes, if you think about the cricket teams, the football teams that have to travel, and those teams might have more people or more, and they go into further countries. We go in our region. We stay in Cayman Islands. If you have to go to Budapest or Australia or to France or to any of these foreign countries, guys, it's expensive. It's really expensive. So the government has to incentivize corporate companies to give more, and the government has to understand that if they want medals, they have to put out more money to our athletes. They have to do it.
And you say that, it's Cayman Islands, but at
Yeah,
some point, if we're talking Olympics 2028, you're going to start regionally, but at some point, you're going to have to reach,
international.
international soil if we're talking Olympic qualifying, Guys, it's 8:47. I think we've actually covered it. This might be the first time in the show, in the history, you're not talkative like Gary and Atto. I had Gary and Atto here, and that was actually before the whole outrage. But Atto Boland's been speaking track for a while, and and that, of course, when you start to say the negative things, which we believe just it's the truth, persons, they seem to think that you're a troublemaker. I actually have said, and I'm appreciating that Jareem is speaking out. I think he is saying some hard truths. But I've often said that as athletes, I don't think they speak out enough. I don't think that, maybe they'll say they're not getting involved in the politics of it or whatnot. But maybe there is a space, or there needs to be a space where, you guys are, I mean, I don't want to get Ryan in trouble, being the national coach, still in it. Brent, well, you already in trouble, but you would have seen, and I mean, if we go back, I don't know how young a audience we have, but your career, I think, ended prematurely because you spoke out. And so there is a real victimization that can occur for athletes. I'm not taking that away. But if we continue to just hunky dory, stay quiet, and the athletes do not begin to champion their own cause, speak about that. Speak about what can the athletes do, to demand the respect that they deserve. Who's
But
going
I'm not
first?
saying anything badly. We're not. We're not saying anything bad to try and get anybody in trouble. We're not trying to come out and call out anybody's name or say. We're just saying what we need to get the results that they want. Because everybody's saying that they want results and there's outcry because we have no medals now for 2 Olympics. But the fact is, we're not calling out anybody in particular. We're not saying any minister in particular, whatever. We are saying that we as a country, we want better for ourselves. We want to see our athletes doing better. We want to see our youth doing better in general. And we're just saying the things that we need for us to do better. We're just calling out the things that we need. We need better management. We need more funds. We need better facilities. These are just the things that we need if we want to better our country in general. So I don't see why we should have to be afraid to say what we have to say. Nobody should be.
I,
We shouldn't be afraid to come out and say that we need better for ourselves to be able to do better.
I, I, Sorry, Ryan. The unfortunate thing is we have a lot of thin-skinned people here in this country, especially in higher places. And when people like yourself, Ryad, myself, speak out and say the truth, as you rightfully said, say exactly what is and paint the picture. And somehow it end up, no matter what you say or what is said, it falls in their garden somehow, and they take it personal, and that's a fact. And it's very, very unfortunate because I am so happy to see people like yourself, Ryan, and Ryad is on this call. Of course, we heard from Dream, Michelle, they're speaking out. You have to, because how else you would know what's happening? How else they would know? But again, the unfortunate thing is, as I think Marsha was alluding to, we have a culture here in this country when somebody says something, if you say something, you either yellow or red, or if you say something, either black, we tend to go down that road. And that's very, very unfortunate because at the end of the day, only the athletes can say exactly what they need to qualify and what they need to of course, upkeep. And that's the unfortunate thing with this with it. But I implore them to continue speaking because I don't think it's fair that we have all these comments coming on one side and the athletes staying silent on the next side.
Yeah. Because you spoke about the assessment, right? I mean, and that sort of echoes what Atto actually said in when he was on, and he said, we need to put the pettiness aside. I think in Paris he also spoke and he said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we had in the past. It don't matter who I called out in the past. We need to come together, put the pettiness aside, and get the job done. So and I like the idea where you say the Ministry of Sport can facilitate a conversation, bring everyone together. We would have seen it happen with the constitutional reform, right? That is something that politics we're supposed to do. You're supposed to go into each constituency and get the views of everyone. We can do that on a sporting level, bring the athletes together, bring the former athletes together, bring the technical staff together, and have an open, honest, brutally honest conversation where we can be mature enough to take the criticism, whether you think it's ill-founded or not. Take everything, allow everyone to say what they have to say, and then we could start to filter it out. But we do need a safe space where athletes, former athletes, technical staff, and maybe even some of the supporters, maybe some of the supporters need to be able to say why aren't they coming into the, because that same T10 tournament that you spoke about, it was well run, but there was nobody there. So maybe the supporters need to say what's up with the marketing. How can we get supporters in? Ryad, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak to that, with the athletes.
I know for a fact that athletes are scared to speak out because of when you speak out, you get pushed behind. I did that. I was captain of Trinidad and Tobago team. I spoke out for my players. They weren't comfortable for certain stuff. I was removed as captain next year. But I'm not gonna sit back and watch things happen and play a blind eye to it. And now I understand why players don't do it because they get sabotaged, and it's just the truth. And players not gonna do it. Athletes not gonna do it because this is their livelihood. If they speak out, some players go behind their back, some athletes go behind their back and say, this is what they shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have done this. I experienced that as well. And nobody has there's a few who would stand up and say XYZ, but the majority is not going to do it because this is let's be frank, this is their bread and butter. They're not gonna they don't want to go and lose it, but the people that are in charge should have some balls and say, okay, we're not doing what we should be doing. Not everyone, not everyone, but where we need to get it right. They know what they need to be done, what is need to be done, and they're not doing it. A lot of people like power in Trinidad. They want to hold on to positions even though they're not doing the right thing, and they know they should be doing the right thing. They know what should be done, but they just don't do it. Is okay for us to come as a nation or past athletes and say, this is what should be done, and that's the real world. I don't think we have that in Trinidad and Tobago. I honestly don't think that we have that. People don't come out and speak for the right things. We always, for some reason, speak for the wrong thing. As Brent say, there's a T10 tournament. There's only 5 people in the stands. Um, I played for a club called Alaskan Comets a few years ago, and we were almost 2 years straight in line for demotion. And one night, we said we'll just have a lime at the club. We decided we're going to have a T20 tournament just to bring back people to the club to look at cricket, because there's absolutely nobody looking at cricket. I can tell you it was the most successful T20 tournament held in Trinidad and Tobago, probably in the region. We had is a very small ground. We had over 3,000 people on the finals night coming to look at it. We helped so many people in the village come out and sell stuff. People asked why we didn't charge them to rent a tent and that sort of thing. But that's not what it was about. It was bringing back people to the community to watch cricket and have the community back together. They even shut us down just after COVID because they said there's too many people and COVID and X, Y, and Z. But people was starved for cricket, and it's unfortunate that we didn't have it. After that, because of funding, we couldn't get corporate Trinidad and Tobago to come on board. We had our sponsors in the past were very, very good to us, but then after that, people just decided that they're not gonna put money back into the sport, and it was amazing to see how much of a success that was. People spoke about it every year. People keep asking, when CSL is gonna happen, when CSL is gonna happen. But the amount of work that has been put in, and we don't get paid. The committee members don't get paid for the sacrifices. We go to the ground at 4 p.m. every single night for 30 days, and we leave after 12 in the night. I have a committee of 12 people. We don't get paid. This is people who go to work, come back, come straight to the ground, leave at midnight to go back to work at 8 a.m. And people don't understand that they think that you throw a tournament and you get money from it. You don't get no money from it. We just do it because of the love of cricket and to actually bring the community back together. But we don't get anything from it.
I feel this is very unfortunate because I think that we've had such a conversation being in sport long without giving away all our ages. And I'm not sure that the conversation has changed, unfortunately. Brent would have experienced victimization. I remember getting injured a week before Commonwealth, and at the time, I was a single mom. I coached to earn an income, and I was on crutches, and that made life so very difficult. And that was, you gotta thank you. Nobody even really called to check up on you. That was that. Move
I
along.
must say, I
And
must say, for cricket though, whenever we're injured, they take good care of us. We have a very, very good system. Our physios has been excellent. We've if even if now people are injured outside of the country, the first people they call is our physios in Trinidad in Trinidad. Sports medic TT, Jason, Oba, and those guys, they are very, 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 very good. Um, you know, if I can say one thing, our cricket team is probably one of the fittest in the Caribbean at the moment. And
well, I'm
these
so
guys,
happy that there is some improvement in that area.
yeah, these
So we will leave
guys,
on a very positive note that our physio is getting there. And I
yeah,
know that we have sports psychologists and stuff now too as well. So I don't want to take us into a conversation where you all are gonna end up speaking too long because it is now 8:59 and all of a sudden you all have gotten really chatty. So we'll leave on that positive note. Ryad, I'm gonna give you the last say because you said something really positive. Last say, you have 30 seconds.
just for trying to be positive, keep supporting our athletes. We go there, we try our best. I know it's a tough road, but continue to support us, and for the people in charge again, please keep backing the athletes and spend the money in the right way. All right, that's
Red,
all.
we want to see you as the coach for the Olympics, so don't say too much more. Okay, guys, it's been a pleasure. Ryan, have a safe trip.
Thank you for having me.
Ryad, Brent, have a great day, and thank you so much for having the conversations and saying the hard things. Have a
No
good day,
worries.
guys. Bye.
Good day.